So welcome back to the Future of Work podcast. My name's Ed Dale from Illuminate Learning, and if you're looking at adopting AI or a Copilot strategy into your organization, well, you're in the right place. Today's episode is beyond productivity. In this episode, we're going to be taking a dive into M365 Copilot, looking at the efficiencies and benefits Copilot can bring to organizations such as yours. So joining me are two people who live this transformation every day. We've got Lewis Graham, who is a Copilot specialist, I'd say expert actually, but Copilot specialist from West Coast Cloud. And we also have Michael Conlon, who is a transformation consultant here at XMA. Guys, thank you very much for joining us today for this podcast. So I suppose we should really jump into it with the first thing, because when Copilot, when it launched back in, was it November 2023 was when Copilot initially launched. But when it launched, it launched for EA customers. So it was a large enterprise agreement, thousands of seats. And I think that may have put a slight misconception in the eyes of some people that AI is just for large enterprises. But that isn't true, is it, in your experience? What have you seen at how smaller partners are, or smaller customers, SMB, are utilizing Copilot?
I think, as you said, there was that misconception because there was a minimum seat requirement of 300 that it's only for enterprise customers. But if you think about what Copilot does, what Microsoft 365 Copilot does, it allows you to do more with less. It's going back to that same messaging that Microsoft have always had. So when we look at that, who is the people that have got to do more? It is your SMBs. I was speaking to a client a couple of days ago, and the managing director had his multiple hats on. He was a managing director, he was the finance director, he was making sure the accounts, he was looking at the support desk. Again, he's got all these different things where he's being pulled from and to. Now, with Copilot, by hiring an AI assistant or having an AI assistant, it reduces those mundane tasks, that burden that he's got on himself, so he can handle those out.
Absolutely, and you're quite right when you say, SMBs, quite often one person is wearing a lot of hats. So, they're kind of getting pulled from pillar to post with lots of different jobs. So, if they can be brought some kind of efficiency through things such as Copilot, I mean, that's got to be a good thing for SMBs, right?
Definitely, and it's not just about giving it to that managing director, it then seeps through the rest of that company, because it's not just one person that's doing a lot of jobs, everyone's getting pulled from pillar to post. Even we see it within support teams, giving the ability for a support agent to be able to access AI to resolve cases quicker, and even the sales teams to find the correct product for that customer.
And Michael, what shift have you seen? Because again, being transformation consultant here at XML, so you're working very closely with customers. What kind of transformation have you seen in the kind of the mindset of SMBs when it comes to AI? Are SMBs ready to embrace AI, like maybe some of the larger organizations who were, let's say, potentially early adopters? But are SMBs, smaller customers, ready for AI, do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the things from talking to customers I really get a good sense of is that they still want to innovate, they still want to grow, they still want to expand, no matter what the size, they want to move forward all the time. Copilot's given them a real opportunity to accelerate that. It really acts as a force multiplier. And any of those organizations want to have access to that. How can I do force multiplication? How can I invest in my team so that we can grow and maybe grow further and faster than perhaps what we'd expected to do? And they want that for themselves. And if it's there for the taking, they want to absolutely grab hold of it. Absolutely.
No, I'd absolutely agree. And I think one of the things for SMBs, again, when it comes to things such as Copilot, is of course, the cost. The cost of, we're talking about an add-on license that gets added to M365 Business Premium, and then that's something that then gets added on top of that. Now, some smaller customers might think that that is a cost which cannot be justified. How can we justify that cost of Copilot to customers?
One of the things I spoke to a leader about was, he said, I want to grow and I want to expand. I said, but I don't want to take on any new people. But I can invest in the people I've already got, right? If you think about if I'm going to employ a starter intern or a starter for, say, £23,000, or I can give my team something that's £20, £30 that sits alongside them every day, supporting them 24 hours a day when they need to. That's a really strong strategic investment you're going to be making there. And so when you think about the cost of each person's job, what would you get paid per hour, for example? If I can save you 8 hours of work for £20, that's a real trade-off.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I heard someone talk about something similar. Like if Copilot could maybe just save you 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day over the course of a working month, well, that works out to what, 20 hours? 20 hours over the course of a month. And if you were to do some backward arithmetic to figure out what your hourly rate would be, hopefully it's going to be more than 30 quid over the course of a month. So again, for that cost, absolutely, the value of Copilot is absolutely there in the efficiency and the time saving that it could bring. And I think that, regardless of whether you are a massive enterprise or an SMB customer, everyone wants the same things. Everyone wants to be more efficient, more productive, have staff that are more engaged with the work that they're doing. I think that's something that's universal in business, not something that's exclusive to either the SMB or enterprise
That's
segment.
the culture, isn't it? And gender across our businesses.
Yeah, you can even change it. People don't want to be doing the mundane tasks. They want to be doing boring tasks, do you? If I can hand that off to something else, whether it be an assistant or in this case an AI, I'm gonna be happier in what I'm doing day to day. I'm gonna be able to sit here and do a podcast, aren't we? It's more interesting.
And in terms of those mundane tasks, I mean, we've all got them. Everyone that's listening to this has got some of those mundane tasks that need to be done. They're crucial for everyday work, but they potentially, they're not fun to do, or it takes ages. Are there any kind of mundane tasks that Copilot's help you guys with? Louis, start with you.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few. I use it day in, day out. One thing that I would like to say is a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, if a job's worth me doing, that I don't want to hand it off to an AI because it's important, and I should be doing that because it's an important task." It's not about the AI doing the work for you, it's getting you a step further down the line. So with all of the things that I do, it's not going to necessarily complete the task, but it will be getting me 80-90% of the way there. For me, I'm not an Excel guru, so I always preach for Copilot in Excel. I was doing a VLOOKUP. There is a lot going on around Microsoft at the moment in terms of eligibility. I had 700 customers. I had 1,000 other customers on another sheet. I had to do a VLOOKUP between 4 different columns. I was like, Copilot, where are you? That had it completed, and I'd say about 2.5 minutes. For me to do that manually, I'd either have to go off to that Excel guy internally that knows what he's doing with Excel, or I'd have to go on YouTube, fumble around, get to a point where it'll fail, and then still go to that person. Like I said, I had it within a minute. I even had a couple of graphs off the back of it. So for me, I can't preach enough about Copilot for Excel because I haven't got that skill. And that's what it's there to do. It's there to boost my ability in areas where I am lacking.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously a bit of a confession, even though I work for Illuminate Learning now, I was previously a Microsoft employee. And even though I worked at Microsoft, my Excel skills were amateur at best. I had the same problem that you did. If I had to do something in either a large Excel sheet, I'm either having to, go and find that person, which they always love. Like they're trying to get their work done and you're coming up going, oh, how do I do this? And that's never a good thing. Or you try and look up a YouTube video, since they got rid of the dislike button, it's really hard to find the YouTube video that's actually going to help you solve that problem. But Excel, I think, is one of those features in M365 Copilot that has advanced hugely over the last few months. I remember because Excel, let's be honest, is probably one of the most complex of the M365 applications. And when Copilot first came out, there was some things that Copilot did struggle with a little bit. But I have to say, over the last couple of months, Copilot in Excel has got phenomenally good.
I think even, like you said, if you look back to those first couple of weeks, so I had Copilot from about the 13th of January last year, so I had it for quite a long time. So, oh, this is amazing, I can get it to do all my lookups. You say, oh, you could do a lookup, and the way to do it is this. Whereas now it will now go, right, to do a lookup, this is the way that you do it. And actually, here's a little preview of what it's going to look like. Right, do you want to insert the columns? I don't know if you use the Copilot in Python to start analyzing.
I've seen one of my colleagues, Andy. I've seen him using it, and it's incredible, isn't it? The stuff that it can do.
So something that I would never be able to do is create a heat map. So I see them; they're all nice and fancy, all these different colors. But we go into partners and customers and see where they're trying to use AI. I can then go into it. I can give Copilot an Excel spreadsheet that shows who's using Copilot, how often they're using it, what are they using it in. and then go, right, create me a heat map based on this. If they're using it 0 time, put it as red. If they're using it a lot, keep it as green. Some minutes I've got that. Again, for me, it's a lifesaver, something that I would never know how to do.
Yeah.
I'm now able to do, and probably a lot quicker than someone does know how to do it. It's in spilled tea.
It's kind of a leveler, isn't it? Previously, before Copilot, you might have people in organization, again, just using Excel as our example. There'd be a few people that are kind of up here, a few people in the middle, but then potentially a lot of people, down here. With M365 Copilot and in Excel, it kind of brings everyone up to like a really solid baseline that now more people in an organization can potentially do more things than they couldn't do before because they didn't know the secret magic formulas they needed to type in to make Excel do the things they needed it to do. Now everyone has the potential to do more with those applications. Again, I think that comes back to the fundamentals of kind of why Microsoft has invested so heavily in Copilot and AI. What about yourself? Have you got any mundane tasks that Copilot has been incredibly helpful with?
Well, I guess there's this terror of a blank page for people, that blank page in Word that just stares at you and says, make something, or a PowerPoint deck, you have to start from scratch.
Right as block.
Absolutely. And you think about, why were you hired in the first place? You weren't hired because of your PowerPoint building skills. Your knowledge domain is what the business values. So let's cut out the building bit. Let's focus on your knowledge base and your knowledge skills and be an editor rather than going from starting with a blank page every time or a blank presentation. And I've really enjoyed just asking Copilot a question or giving it some directions, and it'll build you something really quickly that I then edit and tinker with to make it my own. And that's getting me off the starting blocks at 8 miles an hour so as I can then get onto the real work. The real work is about the content and the knowledge and the sharing. It's not about the building and drawing text boxes and pulling in graphics. That's not what your skills are. Your skills are about the knowledge of your business, getting in front of customers and looking at your data, as you said, with Excel. So what it's doing is helping you build much more quickly.
Absolutely.
And that really is an accelerator you can't ignore.
I think that just going off that, for me, I'm not in marketing. I don't really care how big a logo is. I don't care what colours they are. Sorry for any marketing.
Keep that quiet.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the recent update, but it now taking on branding guidelines. So amazing. I don't need to worry about sending to marketing and then going, this is all rubbish. You've got to restart it. You've got to put it.
It's the wrong size. It's the wrong. The
colours are wrong. The text is wrong. It's not all capitals or whatever that marketing team have decided is your branding guidelines. It takes those on board. And for me, that's a lifesaver.
And that demonstrates Microsoft listens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They've listened to the customers.
That's right, yeah.
What do you need? Well, this is what I need to connect the brand guidelines so that anybody who doesn't build a PowerPoint with content can do so with confidence.
Absolutely, and I think everyone here can relate to the points you made around the getting started in the document, whether it's Word or PowerPoint. That is the hardest part. And people would sit there, potentially like procrastinate and worry and, writer's block, that's a real thing for anyone. And I would say, and again, I'm not just calling out, people that work in marketing, there's people who work in sales that have to write, proposals or RFPs or whatever it might be, an email, for example. So, the fact that Copilot creates a world where no one has to start from scratch ever again. It can get you off the starting blocks and get those creative juices flowing. And again, it's not that it's just doing everything for you. Because again, one of the things that I think sometimes is a bit of a confusion with people that maybe aren't as familiar as Copilot as we are, is that Copilot utilizes your data. It's not like some tools, like ChatGPT and one of the other hundreds of AI tools that's out there that is just pulling information from the internet. It's actually using your data. So the information that's, within your OneDrive, your SharePoint, Teams chats, emails, that sort of thing. And with that in mind, when you say to people, Copilot uses your company data, that obviously starts a little bit of concern. Hold on, Copilot has now got access to all of my company data and all of my information. There's a lot of concern around, potential oversharing. What if somebody within an organization starts getting access to information they shouldn't be seeing? So what can we say to people that maybe have these hesitancies around Copilot and AI generally? Well, let's just stick it to Copilot around, like security and data. What can we say to kind of rest people's minds a bit?
So I always put them into three separate buckets. The concern that we're also it's security, governance, compliance, and then finally privacy. So on that security one, as you said, it's got access to that Microsoft Graph. It's built into the Microsoft data center, so it's got access to all of those SharePoint and OneDrive documents. But it honors the existing permissions that they've got set on there.
Okay.
Now, that does come up with, it honors them. They've got to be set right in the first place.
Gotcha.
And as well as that, I don't know if anyone does, but I always advocate for data loss prevention and sensitivity labels, because all of those will be inherited. If you're using those, which you should be, it's included within your license, actually, you're going to honor those and inherit those from anything you create. Because if you're creating an internal document that's highly confidential, you're creating something from it, well, the content is highly confidential, obviously, you need that to be inherited. Within that governance and compliance, it's not really saying that AI's got access to everything. The analogy that I give is, when I've got someone coming around, I might make up downstairs, the living room, the kitchen, I'll wipe down the side, make sure the cushions are nice and fluff. So I'll say to Copilot, you can go into the living room and the kitchen. They're the only two rooms that are open to you. Or actually, under the stairs is a mess. So I'm going to dead up that door. I'm going to say, right, Copilot, you don't have access to this. We have an allow list and a block list. So yes, as standard, it has access to everything, but it doesn't need to. I can steer it towards what I want it to, because if I've got someone in finance and I don't know what they've got access to, can they see the HR documents? We might want to remove them from Copilot speed for them.
So it's not the fact that we control Copilot, we control our environment.
Yes.
And what Copilot can do in that environment. So it's like you said, it's like tidying our own house before Copilot comes round as our guest.
Definitely.
Okay, and yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the key things, because obviously, Michael, we're helping customers, get ready for Copilot, get ready for it. What are some of the things that customers ideally need to do before products like Copilot are deployed? We've already mentioned, some things like security. Are there anything else like licenses or anything?
Yeah, there's governance in there, and then there's getting the right license for you, and that comes from a deeper understanding of what art of the possible is. And people ask, can it help you explore that as an organization? We normally start with having, leadership seminars, just so they understand, what that art of the possible is, and try and connect it to their why. Why would you want to have Copilot in your organization? What are the implications for you around that? One of the implications, of course, is that technical readiness. There's a cost, but that's that technical readiness was looking at that security, looking at the governance, and it's really, really important for leadership to understand that. And that the understanding can then themselves articulate why Copilot is joining our business and joining every one of our team on a daily basis. That's really, really important. And then once you've done that, then you can start having a discussion about an adoption strategy. Because one of the big things is that you wouldn't invest in something that people can't use or don't know how to use. So your adoption strategy really has to sit around, how do I take my team from little experience perhaps of using Copilot, maybe using it in a personal kind of way with AI, so that we become really agile users of the AI. So you're plotting and planning a route through adoption, which will develop the skills of those individual teams, so they're getting the very best of that value that you're trying to inherit from the conversations you have with us at the beginning. So it's leadership, there's a technical readiness, there's getting the licenses right, and then there's an adoption piece. And it's a journey like anything else. And it's a journey that can be accelerated really quite quickly, can't it? Because what we found is once people get hold of it, they move really, really quickly in a really agile manner because they see the benefit every single minute of the day.
And you mentioned why are licenses important? Because now, Copilot, when Copilot first launched, there was only, a handful of licenses. Why is licensing important when you can have Copilot on like Business Basic, Standard, Premium? Is there any kind of recommendations to certain licenses over another if you're looking at Copilot?
Yeah, so as you said, minimum requirement, Microsoft, there isn't really one at the moment, but what do we recommend? Business Premium is always going to be that hero SKU. Why is that? It includes all of your security and governance compliance controls, so you can start putting these guardrails in place. Now,
so controlling the environment, as we mentioned before.
Data governance has always been there, but it's always been pushed down the line. We'll do it later. We don't need to worry about it. But because these technologies are built on our data, the saying is garbage in, garbage out. You can't expect a good result from a product if you're not got good result, not got good bits of information in your tenant. Have you got redundant information? Now, speaking from experience, we at West Coast Cloud looked at adopting Copilot. We had documents that were back in put into our SharePoint back in 2017 for vendors that we'd never used other than in 2017. I've only been there since 2020. There was things in there that I didn't know about. So we went through a whole data governance strategy of stripping it out and going, right, what is it that we actually need within our SharePoint? Right, product list, it is the products, it is HR information, but that's going to be segmented off. We need an area for each team. It's always been there, but it's always been kicked to the side. And with those business premiums, again, you've got the ability to control that data, to put the guardrails in place to make sure that not just information internally is secure, but it doesn't get reached externally. Because let's say you send a document to me that's highly confidential. It's then in my environment, it's then in my Copilot, someone else has got access to it. So yes, it's data governance as internal, but external as well, making sure that we have got a block around our office control or around our data control.
Okay, so we've got optimal licenses. We've got foundational readiness with things such as identity governance, data security, and potentially data hygiene as well. These are all things that XMA can help with, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we've got a team dedicated to that process.
Excellent.
And actually, some customers have found it a really useful exercise to understand their organisation, the data that sits inside it. From the feedback we've had, people saying that's really helped us rationalise what's important, and clean house in many respects.
Absolutely.
So a really valuable exercise for most organisations, I'd suggest.
Fantastic. Yeah, so just doing a bit of spring cleaning for SharePoint, really, isn't it? Because I wonder if anyone who's watching, have a look at your SharePoint. Have a look at your SharePoint and just see how much stuff that is in there that potentially either doesn't need to be there because it's like super out of date, or the information that's in your SharePoint, who has access to it? Is it just the people who need access to it, or does potentially everyone in the organization have access to it? Again, these are the things where XMA can help understand, what does the lay of the land look like, and make sure the environment is as good as it can be for when Copilot is deployed. But even after deployment, that potentially is just the beginning. We get products like that out there. Obviously, we want to make sure that people get the most of them. You mentioned a phrase there, that whole garbage in, garbage out. I mean, that also goes for prompts as well. I've seen some people where they have adopted Copilot and they haven't been told. It was ordered by someone in the company, said, oh, that looks good, ordered it, deployed it out to everyone, didn't say a word about what it was, just like, it's just like ChatGPT, just ask it a question, it will do all your work for you. And they kind of like set it up like this, and then people try it, it doesn't do the thing they thought it was going to do, and then they just write it off. So there is that whole that garbage in, garbage out. You've got to be prompting Copilot effectively, and now there are things which some of you watching may have seen, but promptathons. Yeah. What are these promptathons?
So as you said, I can speak from experience. I got given a Copilot license, like I said, last January. I sat there and I was like, oh, this is a nice to have. I'll create an image with it, or I'll look at it in an Excel document. No, I didn't really use it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit and lie. And it took me
Thanks.
3 months to be able to understand how to use it, because it was so new. Not only did you have to learn how to use it, how to prompt it, but where do I prompt it? How do I interact with it? And so what you mentioned there with the promptathons, it is giving the employees an experience to see how to prompt, because there's different ways of structuring the prompts. The big one that comes up is GCSE: goal, context, source, and expectation. Because essentially you're delegating a task out. I could ask it to create me a proposal, but will that meet my expectations? As you mentioned, have we got documents in SharePoint on OneDrive that we want it to reference to? What is the reason that it is completing that task? If you go in and give it a one-centered prompt, it will get you somewhere. Will it be as detailed? Will it be as what you would do to meet your expectation? I find it very highly doubt.
Mm-hmm. And Michael, have you been on any promptathons or been involved in promptathons at all?
Yeah, as part of our adoption process is really effectively help support the promptathon idea. Oftentimes what we find is that people really struggle to be articulate. So I've tried to think, what we set up was, imagine you have an assistant and you give them a prompt and they go away and they keep bringing something back which is not quite right. If it was a real person, you'd be given more explanation. Well, actually what I really meant was, and then if you give it the right detail, off it will go. one of the successful things we had was something called a lunch and learn promptathon. So people were coming in with their own prompts, which have really worked well for them in their particular area, sharing those prompts and building capacity across the team in terms of understanding what a good prompt could look like, using that kind of modeling idea that you suggested earlier. And that sharing and communicating of what prompts work in an organization keeps it nice and local and keeps it relevant to what you're trying to achieve. There are general prompts which will always get you something back that you need, but you can be really nice and specific when you share amongst your team prompts that really work for you.
Fantastic.
I think that's a really good point. A lot of people think that they're on their own and they're siloed.
Yes.
Actually, we're all sat here. We can all have Copilot. We get our laptops out. You can say, right, I want you to complete this task for me. All three of us will have a different prompt, a different way of thinking of creating that prompt. So it's a big thing that we see is having that chat, that weekly catch up, that area where you can collaborate on ideas and give those prompts really helps with that adoption piece. Because otherwise, you think you're on your own, but you're not, because everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's trying to get to that same equality.
And you need to think of that return on investment, don't you? If I'm going to get the very best out of this amazing product, then let's make sure we're using it in an amazing way.
Absolutely. And I've seen there are some tools and resources out there. I don't know if have you seen the website, the Copilot prompt gallery? So Microsoft, that's not a bad place to get started. I mean, it's got some examples of prompts, and you can filter it by M365 applications, so it's Word, PowerPoint, Excel. You can filter it by the task you're trying to achieve, the job role you're in, and it will come up with some examples. It's a good starting point, but I definitely think these promptathons, especially when they're tailored to a certain organization with the sort of tasks and roles, the things they need to do to really kind of get the ideas flowing.
Promptathon, it's different from a finance.
Of course, well, and that's the thing. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a one size fits all situation, with utilizing Copilot. So I think we've covered promptathons pretty well there. But I think with promptathons, it's a continual thing, isn't it? It's not like one of those things where you can go, oh, Copilot, yeah, completed it, mate. It's one of those things where it's constantly evolving, and again, that conversational nature. I think that's definitely one of the things, one of my kind of like top tips for using Copilot, like talk to it in the same way that you would ask an assistant to do something for you. I've seen some people use Copilot and it's almost like they're typing in like pseudo code or something when they're trying to ask it to do something, like talking to it in like 1970s kind of like computer sci-fi language or something. You don't need to do that. Talk to it as if you would talk to a person. If it's not quite right, no, that wasn't quite like what I was looking for. Could you please try and add in this, and this? So that as a tip, and I'd say the promptathons are absolutely good. But there's something new. There's agent-athons. Now, before we even get on to the agent-athon bit, let's just talk about agents just for a moment. So what are agents?
Yeah, so agents have been around for quite a while, actually, but since Gen AI, since Copilot, they've been really pushed to the forefront. When we talk about agents, what are they there to do? Microsoft 365 Copilot is there to help me with my personal productivity, but actually you can then have an agent that's there for business productivity, process automation. Using the Gen AI, the same background of Microsoft 365 Copilot, we could either create a task agent, a retrieval agent, or actually an automated agent. Now, I always give the example of me. I've been in the sales team. One of the most laborious, boring tasks that I don't like doing, even though it gets my commission coming in, is creating quotes. Let's be realistic. I've got to find the customer on a price file. I've then got to understand what price file they want. I've then got to go and find the products. I've got to times it by how many of the products that they want. So I sat there and I thought, actually, let me try and get an automation into this process. So I sat there, within, I'd say about half an hour, it wasn't even that long, I was able to create an agent that looked at my incoming emails, could identify if a customer wanted a quote, could find that customer on a price file, match that to their price file, find the products, create a nice little table in an email format for me, and then fill it out with what the customer wanted. I then went a step further and was like, right, we've got a West Coast Cloud branding guideline in quoting. Can I put it into that template? Can I now automate the full process? So customer asks me a question, it then creates the quote, creates the proposal, and then sends it to me, because there's this thing of human in the loop. I always want to be able to ratify it, to check it, to make sure it's correct. And again, that took me about an hour to get done. And that's just me. Now, if we talk about the other versions, that more retrieval, HR are busy people. They don't want to be back and forth. So actually what we can do is we can give an agent access to all of our HR documents. So I can go to it and I can say, right, what is our annual leave policy? What is our parental leave policy? Do I have any days for voluntary work? Is that something that we have within our policies? Rather than having to go to that HR person, I'm able to go to an agent and get that answer a lot quicker. And these agents can even be deployed to websites if you really wanted to.
Fantastic. Right, have you had much to do with agents?
I've been observing agents more than actually using them. And one of the ones I saw just recently in the news was an agent that was set a task to go and do some fundraising. And it went off and it created its own Twitter account, GoFundMe page, put out posts on Twitter, an Ask Me Anything session on Twitter, and put out a marketing email, did all that in the background and came back with £3,000. Do you think as an organisation, if there's an agent you can give valuable work to that will bring you a return on that investment, that's phenomenal. I mean, there's a little bit about nervousness around trusting an AI to go out and do something without any human intervention. That will change over time. And the human in the loop thing is really, really important. I think that sense check into the human who's got the domain knowledge and can know what is good, bad, or indifferent. I think that's still critically important. But this is the direction of travel, being able to give an independent agent a job to do and knowing, trusting that they will do it well for you every day.
So that's an interesting point, some of the stuff we just mentioned, because there are people out there that do feel the AI is a threat. And obviously we can't speak to the wider AI message. There's lots of different, AI in different applications around the world. But specifically Copilot. Is Copilot a threat to anyone's job, do you think?
In my experience, no, it's not. It is there to help us. And why do I say that? It doesn't have hallucinations, but it's never going to meet my expectation for that. I can get it close to there. It can do that 80% of the work, but we've all seen it. And it will actually always give you the reference to it, to where to pull that information from. So is it there to replace us? Definitely not. I think we've all seen some of the documents that it can create, which are very good. But again, without that correct prompting, you're not going to get anywhere near the answers that I would be able to.
Absolutely.
Conversations I have with some leaders is that it's made all of their team really much more productive. So that business moves forward further, faster.
Yeah.
That's been an ambition for the business to want to be able to do that and to find everybody much more productive. They're freeing up some hours that they can then commit to their families, their hobbies. You've got a team of people in your organisation who are happier in their work. And every leader I know would want that. That's part of their goal for their organisation.
Absolutely. I'd 100% agree. I'd say that, part of adopting an AI strategy for an organization, there's a very human conversation in there, in terms of, creating a happier workforce. If you have that better work-life balance. And we live in a world now where you can work from any device, any location, anytime. That has kind of brought about almost a feeling that you should be working anytime, anywhere, that you should get home from the office and then you should get your laptop out again and carry on working because you should be doing it. And we've all had days like that where, it does feel like you've done a whole day at the office. But if that starts happening too often, you're going to burn out eventually. So if Copilot can help give that better balance between home and work, then surely that's got to be better for a business. So Michael, what have you seen? So with the customers you've worked with, for the customers that have adopted Copilot, how do people feel about AI in the workplace with the customers you've been working alongside?
When this sounds really odd, people feel invested in, right? That my organisation has trusted me with an assistant, a colleague, a knowledgeable colleague who are going to work in partnership with me and I'm going to be able to bounce creative ideas off of. That's an investment in me to allow me to do more work, more interesting work. I'm not spending a lot of time building. I'm getting more out of Teams meetings. I'm getting more out of the whole 365 ecosystem. That feels good, and again, as we're just referencing just before, that ability to help me capture some time that's for me in my life and my family and my kids and my hobbies and sports and whatever it is I'm engaged in, and yet we're still achieving as a business. We are achieving the work we want to do and more. So for them, a lot of people say it's really a win-win situation for us. And certainly within XME, and I know even within my own personal work that I do on a daily basis, that I do feel invested in and trusted. So those feelings are really, really important for people. in their organisation. And that's come from a personal point of view and from teams that I've been working with.
And I'd absolutely agree. You know, we are living in a world, you know, the next generation of workforce, they will be coming in and they are going to expect businesses to have these high levels of technology. You know, a lot of, you know, what are they now? Is it Gen X? The ones that are just a little bit younger than us. Obviously they've grown up with, you know, these high levels of technology. You've got people that, you know, are going to have grown up with things like ChatGPT and stuff in their lives. They are going to expect this sort of stuff. So again, it's probably worthwhile, you know, organizations, you know, to attract and retain the next generation of talent. It's worth looking at, right?
Yeah, I want to go to work in an environment that has these tools available to me. Do you have that in this particular role? No, we don't have it. Yeah. Well, that's maybe not an organisation I want to work for.
Absolutely, yeah, no, I'd agree. And Louis, what do you think about why is this important to do now? Why are we having this conversation about Copilot right now? The impact of adopting AI, well, Copilot specifically.
I think because it is everywhere, you know, and we're getting to the point now with these large language models, not to get too technical, where they can do deep reasoning. Recently, Microsoft brought in 2 agents that are researcher and analyst, and that can create you a 5,000 word report in about 5 minutes. It can do all of this research for you. So we are really still at the start of the AI journey. But by adopting it now, you can evolve as it is evolving, because it's evolving very quick. I know, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter the videos that are now created by AI that are taking the mick out of like little children, or, you know, where grown adults, they could turn this podcast into 3 little children sat here talking.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. It's turning everyone. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
and that's all created by AI. So that's where we're going. That we are going, and it is happening a lot quicker. I know that they've now created an AI that's self-learning, so it's making itself better consistently. So again, we're just at the start of it. So by adopting it now, you can grow with it and you can get used to it, and your employees can get used to using it.
Well, I guess, and grow with it. And also from a standpoint of, if you're not doing it, your competition probably is. So again, it's about, you know, it's not just keeping up with the Joneses, it is maintaining a competitive edge within your respective industries as well. Because like I said, this isn't going away. This isn't a fad. This is just the way that it's going to be.
I know for me, I don't Google anymore. I use Copilot to search for things.
Fantastic. There we go. So that is a great line to end on. I don't use Google anymore. I just use Copilot. I think that's something we can all get behind. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and your insights today. I know you've got to shoot off, but again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Brilliant insights, both of you. And here is the big takeaway: that organizations that adopt AI, they are going to be the ones that are leading the charge in today's marketplace. So if you've heard something in this podcast that has maybe sparked an idea, or maybe given you some food for thought, maybe that's something that you want to give us a shout about. So do speak to us here at XMA, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast to learn more about M365.